Focus on this timeline. A 17-year-old girl enters her cousin's residence at 8:47 p.m. on a frigid Thursday in January. She never exits. But 10 minutes later, 2 other individuals walk in. When you see what that second camera angle captured, you'll understand why a mother spent 3 months sifting through landfill garbage with her bare hands. The question isn't just what happened to her. The question is how many people stayed silent while she was still fighting for her life. This is a case study on family betrayal, a breakdown of how law enforcement failed a missing black teenager for 4 critical days. If we analyze the GPS data alongside the surveillance, the grim reality becomes clear. No body, no funeral, just a mother who refuses to stop hunting for answers. Let's break down the victim profile. Belle Morgan, 17 years old, a senior at Westridge High School in Tacoma, Washington. Future cosmetology student, she worked part-time at Target, saving every dollar for a reliable car. She lived with her mother, Chenise, and younger sister, Amani, 14 years old, in a 2-bedroom apartment on Cedar Street. Thursdays were her downtime. Usually, she hung out with friends. But on this specific Thursday, she told her mom she was visiting her cousin, Jaylen Booker, 23 years old, unemployed, living solo in a small rental on Maple Avenue, roughly 3 miles from Belle's home. Their dynamic appeared standard, cousins mingling at family barbecues. Nothing alarming, except for one detail Chenise clocked 6 weeks prior. Jaylen's texting habits changed. He started messaging Belle constantly, daily, multiple times an hour. When Chenise pressed her daughter, Belle brushed it off. Jaylen's just bored. He's lonely. This is a massive red flag. Sudden spikes in communication from older relatives often signal grooming behavior. Now, here's the assumption. You think this is a tragic domestic dispute. A girl visits a cousin. An argument breaks out. Things get physical. An accidental injury, followed by a panicked cover-up. That is exactly what the public assumed. That is what Jaylen implied in his statement when detectives finally interviewed him 4 days later. But as we often see in cases analyzed on programs like Final Moments, the first story is rarely the truth. To understand the reality, we have to look at the digital forensics police ignored until 3 weeks after Belle vanished. Jaylen was obsessed with Belle, not as a cousin, as a predator. He had been fixated on her for months. He created Finsta accounts, fake Instagram profiles, to stalk her activity. He maintained a hidden vault on his phone, containing over 200 screenshots of her photos. He searched her name alongside keywords so graphic I won't list them. But under the law, this search history established premeditation at trial. This was not a crime of passion. This was a calculated extraction. But here is the anomaly in this case. Most family annihilators work alone. Jaylen Booker had a team. This brings us to the surveillance gap. The first clip comes from Jaylen's own Ring camera, which authorities only, secured with a warrant 11 days post-disappearance. 11 days. Why? Because they labeled Belle a runaway. This happened despite Chenise telling them explicitly Belle doesn't run. She doesn't leave her charger. She doesn't cut glass. The video is chillingly mundane. Belle and Jaylen arrive at his door at 8:47 p.m. They step inside. The door clicks shut. That is the last verified sighting of Belle Morgan alive. But here is what changes everything. 10 minutes later, 8:57 p.m. A neighbor's security system, angled toward the street, records 2 males cutting across the lawn. They don't knock. They don't ring the bell. They slip in through the side entrance. Both subjects are males in their early 20s. They remain inside for 38 minutes. Police later identified them as Trent Vasquez and Cameron Wells. Both 22. Both associates of Jaylen. Both with rap sheets, one for assault, one for narcotics. Initially, they denied being there. Jaylen corroborated the lie, claiming he and Belle were alone, until she left around 10 p.m. to walk home. 3 people, 3 lies, 38 unaccounted minutes. Let me correct the narrative here. I'm making it sound like the detectives cracked this timeline. They didn't. In a functional investigation, police canvass neighbors immediately. In this case, they waited. Chenise Morgan had to become the lead investigator on her own daughter's case because the system stalled for 4 days. She knocked on doors. She asked about cameras. She found the neighbor with the footage. She sat in that stranger's living room and watched the timeline crumble. She saw the side door entry, She drove that evidence to the precinct and forced them to put handcuffs on Jaylen Booker. What did the witness observe? Two males enter the residence at 8:57 p.m. They exit at 9:35 p.m. They are struggling with a heavy load. Something wrapped in dark fabric. They shove it into a trunk. They flee. Jaylen's own security system should have captured this exit. But conveniently, the recording cuts at 9:15 p.m. His excuse, dead battery. But if we look closer, that specific model is hardwired to the home's electrical grid. Now, analyze the behavior. You intend to harm someone in your own home. You possess a surveillance system that sees everything. Do you leave it running? Jaylen manually severed the feed at 9:15 p.m. Belle had been inside for 28 minutes. The accomplices, Trent and Cameron, inside for 18 before. The question remains, what transpired in those 18 minutes that forced Jaylen to kill the camera? Investigators constructed a theory based on digital footprints, and a witness granted immunity. Jaylen texts Trent at 8:52 p.m. Exactly 5 minutes after Belle walks through the door, the message read, "Now." Trent and Cameron resided 4 blocks away. They arrive at 8:57 p.m., 5 minutes flat. A fifth individual, present at the apartment that night, provided crucial testimony. He stated Trent mentioned the plan earlier. Jaylen was finally going to execute his move. They were the backup. Move on what the witness claimed, ignorance on specifics. Said Trent mentioned a lesson, teaching a female about respect. The witness assumed it was a romantic dispute, not a cousin. He asked no follow-up questions, a choice he testified to under oath. Whether that silence is credible is for you to decide. The timeline is absolute. Belle enters at 8:47 p.m. The signal is sent at 8:52 p.m. The muscle arrives at 8:57 p.m. The camera dies at 9:15 p.m. They exit with the bundle at 9:35 p.m. A neighbor 3 doors down provides a haunting detail. She heard shouting near 9 o'clock p.m. A female voice. Distress. She dismissed it. Jaylen often hosted loud gatherings. She did not dial 911. No one did. Belle's phone pinged one final time at 9:03 p.m. Location confirmed. Then, silence. The device was never recovered. Chenise began calling at 10:30 p.m. Voicemail. 11 p.m. Voicemail. At midnight, panic sets in. Chenise drives to the location. She knocks. Jaylen opens the door. Claims Belle left at 10 p.m. Said she appeared normal. Suggested she walk to a friend's. Chenise asks to enter. Jaylen refuses. It is late. I am going to bed. Chenise alerts authorities at 12:30 a.m. The response is standard, yet devastating. Wait 24 hours. Teenagers run away. She will return. Chenise pushed back. Not my daughter. Something is wrong. Dispatch advised her to call back the next day. Police did not visit the scene until Saturday, 48 hours after the disappearance. When they finally interviewed Jaylen, they accepted his narrative. She walked home. They did not pull the drive. They did not verify guests. They took a statement and cleared the scene. This is where everything changes. Chenise secures the neighbor's footage, delivers it Monday. The classification shifts from runaway to criminal incident. A warrant is executed Tuesday. 5 days late, inside, they find a receipt from a hardware store, dated Friday morning. Bleach, industrial carpet cleaner, rubber gloves, the shopping list of a cover-up. The living room carpet was damp, recently shampooed. But forensic science is persistent. Under the bathroom sink rim, a spot missed by the bleach. 2/7, DNA confirmed. It was Belle. Jaylen is taken into custody Tuesday night. Trent and Cameron follow Wednesday morning. Silence from all three. Then, the prisoner's dilemma sets in. Trent cracks. A plea deal is struck. Testimony against the others for leniency. As documented in court transcripts, this was not spontaneous. Jaylen had obsessed for weeks. He voiced a desire to instill fear. He wanted to prove dominance. Trent thought it was talk until money appeared. $500. Trent took the cash. Recruited Cameron for backup. The objective was intimidation. Restraint. Recording her humiliation. Establishing power. That was the alleged plan. But when they walked through that door at 8:57 p.m., Belle was down, unconscious on the floor. Jaylen stood over her. Trent asked the obvious question. What happened? Jaylen said she tried to leave. He confessed his feelings. She rejected him, so he assaulted her. The weapon, a lamp. Where is it now? Gone. Thrashed earlier. Trent testified his gut instinct was to run right. But Jaylen made an offer. $1,000. Cash. To help move the victim. Cameron took the deal instantly. Trent claimed he felt trapped. That was his defense on the stand. Can you really be trapped while actively helping dispose of a teenage girl's remains? That is a question the jury had to wrestle with. They wrapped Belle in a comforter from the bedroom, carried her out, drove to a commercial dumpster behind a strip mall on Pacific Avenue. Distance, 2 miles. Time check, 9:45 p.m. We know this from the GPS data on Trent's phone. They tossed the wrapped bundle into the bin, drove back to Jaylen's house. The accomplices left. Jaylen stayed up all night cleaning. Here is the critical error. That dumpster was on a schedule. Emptied Friday morning, 6 a.m. Contents went straight to Pierce County landfill, a massive site covering 14 acres. By the time detectives knew where to look, it was Sunday. Too late. By that point, 3 days of refuse from the entire county sat on top of wherever Belle was. They searched for 11 weeks. They brought in cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar, volunteer teams, including Chenise, who showed up every single day in a hazmat suit, digging through the waste. They never found a trace. The trial began 8 months later. The state had a mountain of evidence: surveillance video, GPS coordinates, blood samples, Trent's testimony, Jaylen's phone records proving his obsession. The defense played their only card. No body means no crime. Their argument: maybe she ran away. Maybe she is still out there. Circumstantial evidence isn't proof. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty. Second-degree murder. Sentence, 30 years, minimum. Cameron took a plea. Testified against the ringleader. Got 15 years. Trent received 12 years for his role and cooperation. All three are currently behind bars in Washington state. But if we look closer, there is a detail most people miss. During the initial interrogation, before law enforcement lawyered up, detectives asked Jaylen one specific question: where in the dumpster did you put her? Jaylen denied being there. Then they played Trent's recorded statement. Jaylen went silent. Then he said something chilling. You are not going to find her. The officer asked why. Jaylen replied, because I made sure. What does that mean? As documented in investigative programs like 48 Hours and Final Moments, cases like this often turn on timeline gaps. The prosecution theorized Jaylen returned to the dumpster after the others left to do something to the remains, something to prevent identification. Even if found, they suggested dismemberment, chemical destruction, burning. There was no physical proof of this, but there was a financial trail: Jaylen's credit card statement. A transaction at a 24-hour hardware store, time-stamped 11:37 p.m. that Thursday night. The receipt listed a saw, box of trash bags, industrial drain cleaner. His excuse: he planned to fix a sink. The jury saw the receipt. They convicted. But the question remains: without a body, there is no way to confirm what happened to Belle between the initial assault and the landfill, or what condition she was in when Jaylen went back. Belle Morgan gave one interview after the verdict. She said, "Closure is a myth. Closure requires a funeral. Bringing her daughter home." She admits she still drives to that landfill, sits in her car, staring at the mounds of garbage, knowing her child is somewhere under tons of waste. She said Imani, the younger sister, had nightmares for months. Visions of her sister in the trash. They had to move. Different apartment. Imani couldn't sleep in a house where Belle never returned. But one quote stays with me. She said, "The worst part is not the unknown. We know the outcome. The worst part is knowing that for those 38 minutes, while Trent and Cameron were in that room, Belle might have been alive, breathing, conscious, maybe calling for help. And two people chose a payout over a life. Two individuals could have dialed 911, could have stopped it. Instead, they decided money mattered more." This brings us to the systemic failure. The wait time for missing persons reports involving black teenagers averages 48 hours longer than for white teenagers. This is not an opinion. This is data. A study by the Black and Missing Foundation confirms it. If police had listened to Chenise that Thursday, if they had knocked on Jaylen's door immediately, if they had secured the scene in hours rather than days, the outcome might have been different. Evidence, and perhaps Belle, might have been found. Law enforcement could have intercepted that sanitation truck before it hit the landfill. They could have recovered Belle, given her mother closure. But they missed the window. And Jaylen, he banked on them missing it. According to the witness granted immunity, Jaylen calculated that the precinct wouldn't prioritize a missing black girl from that zip code. He was right. He bought himself a 4-day head start. To clean, to destroy, to dump. He utilized every single minute. The conviction hangs on a thread: a neighbor who hoarded his security footage for 2 weeks, and a mother who wouldn't take wait for an answer. If that homeowner had wiped his drive after the standard 7-day loop, the visual proof of Trent and Cameron entering vanishes. The footage of them hauling bags disappears. Jaylen's alibi stands. He walks free. The question remains: justice for a 17-year-old girl rested entirely on one man's data settings and a mother's refusal to be silenced. Belle should be 20 today. She should be on a campus or styling hair in her own chair. Imani is 17 now, the exact age Belle was when the incident occurred. Her mother notes the change. Imani doesn't walk alone. She doesn't trust. She learned a brutal lesson early: blood relatives can hurt you, and friends will hold the shovel. If you wear a badge and you're reading this, know that every hour you sit on a missing person file is an hour the perpetrator uses to bleach the scene. When you default to runaway, you give monsters a timeline to operate. Cases like Belle Morgan's, as documented in investigative programs like Final Moments, serve as a grim textbook example of the cost of bias. Time is the enemy. And for those watching who think, "I'd never help hide a crime," look closely at Trent and Cameron. Regular guys. 9-to-5ers. Fathers. They made a split-second choice to trade a human life for cash. Evil isn't always a shadowy figure. Sometimes it's your buddy, asking for a hand with a heavy load at midnight. Chenise remains in Tacoma. She directs a non-profit now, advocating for families the system overlooks. She guides them through the legal red tape, connects them with counsel, and funds ground searches. She became the advocate she desperately needed that first night when the precinct told her to go home. Legal update: Jaylen Booker hits parole eligibility in 2052. He'll be 53. Trent Vasquez in 2034. Cameron Wells in 2037. Belle Morgan remains beneath 30 years of compacted refuse. That is, if she's still there, if the wildlife hasn't scattered the remains, if the elements haven't erased her completely, unless Jaylen confesses the exact coordinates. Chenise keeps looking. Her resolve is absolute. She stated, "Even at 80, even when my hands are too weak to hold a shovel, I'll pay someone else to dig. My daughter is coming home." This is a different kind of family annihilation. It's not the father snapping. It's a cousin valuing property over blood. It's friends deciding a payout is worth more than a girl's life. It's a system built to protect and serve, deciding that some victims don't make the cut. If you have a loved one missing, if you see a family shouting into the void while officials stay silent, if you see the pattern, drop Chenise's organization in the comments. And for the sanitation workers watching, if you spot something off, report it. You might be the co-worker Trent or Cameron fooled, unaware you just compacted a crime scene. If anyone ever asks you to do something that triggers your gut instinct, walk away. Remember Belle Morgan. She had 38 minutes, where 2 men could have been heroes. They chose to be accomplices. She was 17. She's still out there,